Welcome and thank you for hanging out with us. This is a special edition of the IT in the D Show. We are broadcasting over at the CXO Forum in the Madison Lofts in beautiful Detroit, Michigan. I'm your host, Bob Waltenspiel. Co-host this week, Erik Wille. You might know him from the CXO Forum. You might know him as the CTO of Cabinetworks Group. You also might know him from the Great Security Debate podcast. You might know him as an all-around great guy, but Erik and I are going to be doing this six-part series here at the CXO Forum. And a special shout-out, Randy Walker. Today he's going to be soundboard engineer instead of co-host producer extraordinaire. Actually, producer too. But yeah, you can find us online, itinthed.com. Do us a favor, give us a like on the socials, subscribe to us everywhere fine podcasts are sold. Without further ado, this will be a 6-part series. We hope you enjoy it and see you soon. We are lucky enough, Erik and I, to be hanging out with two of the guys from Torq. Rob Force is in the house. P.O. is in the house. Patrick Olszewski?
Orzechowski.
I was
close enough.
I grew up with an Olszewski. That's why I immediately went there, even though you just told me. How you guys doing? Everything
all
good?
Everything's great.
You
Appreciate being
Fantastic.
here.
Yeah. I'm from Denver. So
right on.
Yeah, the Mile High City.
Yeah,
for sure.
Great town. How you finding Detroit? Everything good? We always talk about Coney dogs and pizza every time that someone comes in from out of town.
Yeah, I heard about the pizza already.
Yeah.
I got a text saying, "Hey, try this place," but I forgot the name of it.
I'll give you 2 or 3 before you leave.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, no, I loved it. I walked over here from the hotel this morning. The downtown's fantastic. I haven't been here for probably 15 years.
It's a great town. This is home.
Really
this is home.
changed.
Yeah,
it has changed
dramatically.
So I went to Wayne State in the 90s, not to age myself, but the whole Cass Corridor thing is this is a whole new. There was 2 bars back then, and now there's just a. You said
changed a little bit.
You said plethora earlier, so now that's the word of the day.
Plethora.
So you and Erik did a fireside chat.
We did,
which was pretty fantastic, and you were talking about automating the automation of automation
with AI.
And I was with AI.
Automate everything.
Yeah, automate everything. As a dumb sales guy, talk to me, because obviously we know what automation is, but I guess how far has it gotten? Because we're used to simple tasks, putting things in, on Fix It Tuesday or Patch Tuesday.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing today? Because again, this is dumb sales guy. I'm kind of not new to this. Obviously, this is that term's used loose, right? So I want to what's your flavor? Or how does it get done?
Yeah, I think Torq is the next evolution of automation in the SOC and in IT in general, right? Where you don't need to maintain it. It's a full SaaS platform. It's low code, no code. You can take any part of your security stack and integrate. And anything that's repeatable, automate it. Right, that's kind of our mantra, right? So if you have someone in the SOC, an analyst or an engineer that does something over and over and over again, look up a virus total, put things in a sandbox, those types of things, automate it. And you don't need to be a Python expert. You don't need to be DevSecOps. You can do it drag and drop. You can do it without really knowing any code at all, and get most of the way there. And I think we're really close, and we do have customers that are automating probably 90% of the tier 1 tasks that are repeatable, and then that next 10% is really what folks need to look at.
And I think that's the key thing, is you're talking about the low code, no code, and why we're looking at the speed to value. That as we talk about, so you were asking me earlier about the skill sets on the team and what we're good at, what we're not. I don't have to have a full-time developer there. I have to have somebody that can rationally think through what an automation process would look like, and I can hand it off, and it'll go, okay, I understand that. I can build that out for you.
See, a lot of us never thought that
even you could do it, Bob.
Me?
Yeah, you
actually can with our AI, which we call Socrates. You literally can go in and say, listen, I don't know how to build workflows, but I need a workflow that does something like this, and it will literally build out probably 90% of a template that you just go in and tweak.
Yep. Via English language.
See, I didn't realize this is new to me. You needed devs on your security team.
Oh, yeah.
That was,
so
I've always been in cloud data center teams, but never on. So
I would say within the Microsoft stack, not unique to Microsoft, but within the Microsoft stack, to do automation.
Yeah.
That you do, because there's widgets and stuff that'll get you part of the way. It's not easy. It's Microsoft has tried the same type of concept that, just tell me what you want to do and it'll build it out. The convoluted stuff it builds is...
There's very products that are in the ecosystem that I've grew up with, that the only time it was ever done properly is when they have devs on site. Salesforce and ServiceNow. Did I say that out loud?
Right.
But those are they had like dedicated teams, and those can't be they can't be cheap to have
No, not at all.
No.
that much on-site talent just dedicated to devs. So it's
So I helped build an MSSP that used Splunk and Palo XOR, which was Demisto at the time. And we had two sides of the fence, right? We had the folks who managed the alerts and did the cybersecurity work. And then we had the engineers who actually kept the lights on with the tooling that we needed in the SOC, right? Which is kind of a sunk cost when it comes to solving cybersecurity problems.
Yeah.
They're just keeping the lights on, right? So the more you can shift the work away from engineering and that back-end administrative work to solving cybersecurity problems,
Right.
the better you can be and the more resources you can put towards reducing that business risk that comes with cybersecurity.
But I think you said one thing, which is, in cybersecurity problems, but I think at the end of the day, you're solving a business problem.
Yeah.
Because when Erik was talking about his POC with you guys, it was 8,000 hours that you estimated to save by adding this automation?
By doing automation, it's actually probably more than that. If you look at, we are very heavily manual on a lot of our processes.
Okay.
If we just talk about onboarding a new team member into the company,
Yeah.
right? That it's beholden on, hey, somebody, I hope, they put in a ticket, then we're routing it to this queue, we got to do this,
Yeah.
and we hope that the third party that's managing that for us actually orders the hardware, and it's
HR,
it's not a good experience.
Physical access.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I just spoke to a large retailer, and they turn over 40,000 employees a year.
Wow.
Yeah. And, Christmas time and things like that. They
One of
they
the
ramp up.
Halloween stores at the old Circuit Cities. Is that,
I won't out them for
No,
how many
that's fair.
employees they turn over, but the CISO said it's a nightmare to manage.
Yeah.
Onboarding and offboarding that many people, and they're so far behind on it that it might take a week for a brand new employee just to get access to all the things they need access to.
And that's the crazy thing, because there's two different lenses to look at this, right? If we look at it, we were talking about internal efficiency on the team, right? I don't have to use people to do manual tasks, but there's an ESI component to this as well on the employee satisfaction, that when I join a company, my expectation is excellence, that when I hit my seat, everything is ready for me. And that's the problem with all these manual tasks, that when do they ever go to as intended? Never. Why? Because they're holding on people.
But at the end of the day, this is a math problem, right? And I think, at the end of the day, a CFO is going to have to cut a check. And if you can't articulate, that's the thing I always had to struggle with security, was you're selling safety, right?
A lot of the time, it's a risk play. Now, so we're going tangential, but some of that is changing in certain companies, right? So as I look at, I'll pick on Dan Ayala at Dotmatics, right? Dotmatics, what they were selling to the market, their customers cared about security. So security was actually somewhat, you could argue, it's a revenue generation mechanism. Is that the same for all of us? No. There's no security going into your cabinets. I'm sorry. It's wood. It's beautiful what we can build.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be the one. I can change the customer experience in buying.
But my wife sets up the little alarm, so when I try to go in for the Pepperidge Farm, that's a parlay over to Martin's conversation. The alarm goes off, and then she knows at midnight.
No more cookies.
No more cookies at midnight. So I'm trying to get my head wrapped around automation, and I just for not the layman. I know not everyone. Our show is 100% technical. I only know it so far. Walk me through modern day what AI is doing. What else is being automated? Because my knowledge of a SOC probably goes back. I've since AI started.
These aren't the ones you put on your feet.
That's that too.
Yeah.
But walk me through some of the examples of what you are automating today that maybe wasn't being looked at pre-AI.
Yeah, absolutely. So the classic use case is phishing, right? So, you get a phishing email, and in the past you'd have to have an FTE or two monitoring a mailbox that got forwarded to, or monitoring a tool that
you had a button to forward.
Button to forward it, and someone has to look at that, right, and pick it apart and say, well, this has bad grammar. It's probably spam or a phishing attempt. But now AI is generating all of your phishing, right? Now they have phishing as a service. They can generate any email.
It's always a new one every day.
Right.
It's always a new one.
So that was fascinating, actually. Like, the ransomware groups are coming up with this service where you tell them what company you want to target, and they have automation that will go out, build the phishing emails, send the phishing emails, build the infrastructure, build the website to mimic the login, to farm credentials. And it all happens like that. It's like.
So, I mean, if you're looking at AI right now, you can, instead of peeling apart the header, it's already doing a trace route. It's knowing the origin.
Yep.
It's looking for the destination URL. It's picking apart where that's being hosted, right? Is that what's happening?
Absolutely, yeah. So it goes through all of the steps that a SOC analyst would do, as well as enriching it, right? So it can look at that URL, pull in some threat intelligence data, sandbox it to make sure that, it is a legit site or non-legit site. And all of that should really contribute to some sort of risk score or severity. I'm not a huge fan of severities in general, by the way. That's a whole separate conversation. But, deterministically, you can cut out maybe 75% of that work with automation. Now, what AI can do is go out and talk to the user and say, hey, did you receive a suspicious email in the last 24 hours? Yes or no? Yes. Did you click on the link? Yes or no? If you don't have the logs, right? Did you fail MFA 5 times in a row? Those types of things, right? And the AI can actually act as a security analyst going through the case for you. But first, you need the playbook to actually understand how you're going to handle each phishing case by case.
Well, and I'm going to double click on that, because when the logs are present, that's where the force multiplier becomes on this. That if you think about on an EDR tool, I know something nefarious happened on the machine. Yeah. And I can see that, hey, something from Outlook spawned something from that, all of a sudden it hit Internet Explorer, Chrome, whatever, pick a browser of choice. But then those tools can't go any further than that. So as you get into AI and the automation, now there's contextual awareness and understanding. I can take it a step further, because I know who it was. I know the machine. I'll go get the email for you. You know how much time my team has traditionally had to waste on searching through a mailbox? I mean, some of the tools have gotten better on being able to search it. Back in the day, it used to be I had to open up a case. I had to essentially sequester those emails, load them up in Outlook, and then had to one by one go through them and see what was there.
Manually load them.
To even go farther on that, I mean, you think about this. One incident's going to take you 10 to 15 minutes to investigate. We get to the point now where that analyst is literally clicking on a link, and all that research they did are already in the file. All the enriched data, all the discoverable, all the history, all the current notes, the summary even. They're spending 30 seconds to a minute to read the summary, any of the other notes, and make a decision right there whether that's good or bad. That's just one incident. Now let's start talking about thousands of incidents. Right. The time savings you have from just incident response alone is going to be amazing. As
a CISO, why would you even... This is the dumbest thing I'm ever going to say on this podcast in the history of my life. I like
the dumbest thing to date.
This hour. Why? Allowing a hyperlink in an email, because I'm thinking about all the stories that I've ever heard from everyone I've ever talked to on the show, and everything's always been a social engineering ploy, or taking over someone or knowing their calendar and saying, send me a PO to this and click this link, and it's a bullshit link. Yeah. Like, when my mom clicks something, like, literally just turn it off. Like, is that
stop
not a
the
thing?
Clicking?
Stop the email.
But
I got crucified for that.
Did you?
Yeah, because way back when I was on the enterprise side, I floated the suggestion of no attachments or hyperlinks in email as they come into corporate. And
like today, you can just drop it into OneDrive or your cloud of choice, and like there's no need to send attachments or.
Yeah, so I mean, things have changed, but
there's a link for the OneDrive.
Yeah, damn it. And that you have the proof points of the world that can do encrypted emails, things like that. But if you're really serious about it, I mean, have just text-based emails or get rid of email altogether, right? I mean,
as long as it's not Slack.
Yeah,
I think there's an opportunity to do something like that. What's interesting about that? You talk about take out the link.
Yeah.
I mean, how much of us for security awareness send out a link to a video about don't click links.
I know.
So hey, here's a link, but click our link. Our link is the good link.
Yeah.
The really sneaky folks use that as a phishing test.
100%.
I mean, you use a security awareness training email as a test for phishing because they didn't check the URL that's a domain that doesn't match what's in the link.
Inevitably, somebody will click on that link too.
What's interesting, though, I think in that context, one of the use cases, though, is these tools. The one thing we know about AI is it's good about summarizing and understanding big data. Right, because you were talking about UEBA and understanding behavior and stuff like that. So in, I'll say, a prior life, I was forced to have a policy that on our security awareness, so we sent out the quarterly phishing, that on your fourth click in a row within a rolling 6 quarters, that they would send you home, and you had to write a letter to how you're going to do things differently to be able to come back into the office.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
So we're like, I didn't want to do that, so what we did is we actually put it in control. If you made it to the 3rd level, let us help you. And we started stripping out the URLs. So now, hey, you're going to have to copy and paste that.
So
If they sent me home, I just grab AI and have them write the letter and then send it in.
Now you
chat
can.
GPT. Can you write a letter explaining? Because like I almost sometimes equate it to like helping my mom. Looks, my father was very much into technology, and when he passed, basically my mom was like, put it in the URL bar, and she goes, "What is that?" And I'm like, she goes, "I got an email." I'm like, "Don't click it," but I clicked it. I'm like, "Mom, don't click it." And I almost feel like the security training is like, "Ma, don't click it."
Right.
Like, because I feel the same conversations. Like, why did you click that? Look at that. It doesn't even. There's nothing resembling something normal in your inbox, and you clicked
That's
it.
funny.
As an industry, we've failed miserably at training users on what's secure and what's not secure. And I think a lot of that has to do going back to the fundamental protocols that the internet was built on, right? The fact that you can include links and attachments in emails, people got used to that. But there's no real way in the protocols, SMTP, whatever you want to talk about, to protect the user, right? Which is why, I think the next flurry of activity in the space is going to be around identity and non-human identity as well as human identity.
I guess what are they agentic, like how are they looked upon in like a modern day tech stack? Is it
You're going to have to look at them as a user.
That's what I was going to ask.
Give them a role and give them guardrails and access to things and restrict access to other things. And
that's
keep track of it. It is going to get very sticky very fast. And
because it's limit. I mean, it generally is limitless on the agents you can do and build, especially in an automation stack.
Yeah. I mean, how many API keys do you get where you can do role-based access control on the API?
Right.
Not very many.
Right.
I mean, some of the identity providers allow that, Microsoft, Okta, those types of things. But yeah.
Then when the AI talks to the other AI, then they create their own encrypted language and then they steal everything.
They will make their own language. I think that happened
They already
already.
did.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Think about what we're dealing with today, though. We have so much data that I don't care how many people you throw at it, you cannot get through all the logs. You can't get through all the stuff that you need to make sure your company's safe. You have to automate this. You have to speed this process up because the bad guys are doing it, and they're going to bury you in those logs.
Do you buy the whole thing that data is the next industry after, what is it, steam, electricity, automotive, or gas, and then now it's data? Like, are you buying into that?
I think if we go back and, not to get political, but if we look at election years ago, that one could argue data is what changed that with Cambridge Analytica, right? And what they were able to pull from Facebook. Data's a gold mine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think on that note, the traditional SIM needs to go away to an extent, right? You have to look at things from a holistic standpoint and talk to the systems where the data sits versus trying to pull everything into one central location.
SIM's not dead though, right? Or is it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
You had that sheepish look on your face.
We'll try and kill it.
It's totally coming. I mean, if you look at, I think what's kept it around for the longest time is some of the security frameworks that have retention periods. But now we're recognizing that that with some of the tools, that it's much cheaper. I can put it in Amazon. I can put it in an S3 bucket. And
blob storage, long-term storage. Really, I mean, how many correlation use cases look at more than an hour of data to fire an event, right? Not a lot. Most everything's, maybe a day.
Think too about what SIMs were designed to create. I mean, they were designed to put all this data in one place, be able to correlate across that data. What it didn't take into account is the amount of data we have now. That's assuming you're even pulling it into the SIM.
Well, and they were charging per log to boot.
Per log.
Yeah.
So how do we get to all that data source? Pulling it all into one central location, it's not working.
Yeah.
So why don't we go to those sources and then start making the decisions?
Right.
Yeah, and let the agents go out and run the queries, get the data for you, and ultimately make decisions at some point, hopefully, when you're ready to hand the keys over.
I was going to say, where do you see now, let's say SIM's gone. Erik and I talk all the time, when he's been on the show in the past, and I talked about with other CISOs, is just the vendor sprawl.
Yeah.
And there's that one piece of paper that's got 90, 100 vendors, and those are the top ones.
Yeah.
And what he has to deal with all the, especially when you were in the automotive, being on drip campaigns for every one of those, and just the vendor sprawl. Like, where you guys are at, are you trying to shrink, condense? Talk to me about the convergence of, because there has to be some sort of a major convergence, because there's so many layers in this security stack.
Yeah,
where are you guys playing in that?
There are some things that will never go away, right? The use of hyperscalers, the use of endpoint protections.
Did I say that out loud?
We're all hoping.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on Broadcom.
No.
But
we had a whole show on that in the past.
The whole stack, I think, needs to collapse a little bit. What we can do from an automation and convergence perspective is identify gaps, right? If you integrate something and it's not being used, either with an automation workflow or by your SOC staff or someone who's using the tool, then that's a license that you don't really need, right?
Yeah.
So the idea that things can be shelfware and gather dust, and then you just keep renewing it year over year over year.
Dead and unused software is, if every major corporation looked at that, you guys found what, $500,000 in just basically dead EA.
Yeah.
Right. And you guys were on top of your, top of your stuff too. It's a thing. And we looked at Microsoft, and I love them to death, but Copilot flooded the market, and then realized nobody was really using it, because we were all using it to create pictures during football season, and maybe look into people still at my day job, you can look at other people's SharePoint. Well, yeah, that's kind of the point. They don't, basically using the bare search engine functionality.
Right. Versus the Gen AI stuff.
What, Randy?
It's in the name,
SharePoint. Yeah, I know, but a lot of people you don't know stuff exists. I need to find this, and I'm oh, it's on so and so's SharePoint, but they didn't have a link to it, and but they used it they weren't even using search engine functionality of it.
Yeah, and I think fundamentally, if I look at how things are being used, control of the inputs is important as getting the outputs of it. So I use Notebook LM every day, and it summarizes things for me. I'm a huge fan of Notebook.
We just talking
about that.
We just played a 10-minute podcast it generated from a blog I wrote 12 years ago.
Yeah,
and they were talking about the author, and they were it was insane.
It's scary good.
Yeah, it is.
And
scary.
they were they were reading off each other, it was the guy-girl component.
Yeah. And they actually sounds like human interaction.
He mispronounced Job, but other than that, it was
maybe it was intended to go biblical.
Is that what it was? Yeah.
Job. Yeah. But YouTube videos are great, right, for learning what a product does, or
do you do a study guide on a YouTube video?
Yeah, I just
taught my daughter how to do that because she's at Michigan State, and she's like, "That's cheating, Dad." I go, "Is it though?" It's a productivity tool. I don't know.
It's not cheating. You throw YouTube videos in there, academic PDFs, things that the language is too dense.
Put it in a 10K, because as sellers, I want to know how your company is or what you're doing,
right?
And you could throw a 10K in, hit briefing doc, and I just got a 1.5 page bullet point
Right.
of a 200-page 10K.
Yep.
I've been teaching my daughter some study skills, and she's 13 now, and she's starting to learn more. I've been showing her Chat GTP and what she can do, and she showed me this A. I'm like, great, so you're studying. I was like, how'd you study? She's like, I took a picture of all my notes, loaded it into Chat GTP, and it tested me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I never thought of that.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. And, having that kind of shrinking the amount of time that you spend on doing things.
Speed to market.
Yeah, competitive analysis is a big one too. I mean, there's a lot of startups.
We talked to an automotive, and there was a design tool. Not telling the automotive or the tool, I'll tell offline. But basically, the automotive company said we can get a car to market. It used to take 3 years from inception. Now we can do it in 18 months just with using this.
That's fantastic.
Right? And it was basically took in all of the consumer data for the last 5 years, looked at trend lines, looked at people's interest in what kind of cars they wanted to buy and what colors we're buying the most of. And basically said, here's the 5 cars you want to build. Here's the 5 colors. Here's the things you want to put inside the car. Here's the part list. Here's the SKU list for parts. Here's a 3D render if you want to throw it through a 3D printer. Oh, if you want to make this EV, here's the chassis swap out and the 4 battery manufacturers that'll comply.
Holy moly.
And you're in Salt Lake City. Here's a picture of this car in front of a building with a couple with 5 fingers, not 6. And it was like literally insane. And it basically, they dumped in, it was a private LM, dumped in probably 40, and the guy said, this is 4 months of work for 1,000 people to consume, report, and to condense all this data. And you just did it in a minute.
And then you can do sentiment analysis on social media instantly to see if how many you're gonna sell, how many you need to make. Yeah, I mean, it's a scary world.
They talk about displacing jobs. I think I disagree. I think it's taking things speed to market. I always have this argument every day, and I said it's not. Nobody's losing their job because this thing got to market faster, but it allows these companies to shorten this cycle. And then, for the people that used to look at raw log files now, do something not productive, but, they always talked about not digital, what's the word? Like being more productive, not digital transformation, but like not looking at logs and doing something more.
Yeah.
HP used to always argue about it that like 80% break fix was looking at garbage and 20% was being innovative.
Right.
Yeah.
And just turning into more innovative workforce than doing reactive work.
It's so true. I mean, we were at the Grand Rapids Forum, and the question was asked. So we were doing kind of a similar AI panel, talking about it, and the question was asked from an academic standpoint, right? Academia has taken a stance where they don't want people using any of these LLMs.
I know Michigan State, they said you can use AI to write, but I want to see your prompt, and I will grade you based on your prompt. I think
good
so.
On that. Yeah, good on them, because the response was, so the question was framed in the context that it's making people lazier. And he said, and the response was, lazy people will always be lazy.
Yeah.
But for those of you who are actually thinking through it and understanding it, it cuts down some of that ideation time to get you to actually use your brain and do it, and it really is a great tool to move us further.
Yeah, I mean, as a writer, fear of a blank page is real, and I found that AI has helped me. I have it write outlines. I won't let it write the language for me, but I get the outline. At least it's a starting point, right? To put my own voice to something, and if I think that's what, as educators, folks need to look at is, are you going through the process of creative thinking, problem solving, those types of things, versus just trying to read the Cliff's Notes and pass the test?
My oldest daughter, the one that's at State, she's dead against AI because she's an artist. She paints. She's been doing art for the longest time, and she sees like her friends losing out on commissions. And I go, it's like Napster, and I'm trying to like use logic, and I said I was never going to buy that Metallica album anyway, but if I download it, listen to it, like what happened in the universe? Like nothing.
Yeah,
right? And
that's
she's like,
art's a tough one. That's a whole.
But I said it's also 1% of what AI is. So I started explaining to her use cases and started talking about like, this isn't what it's a speed thing, and I'm trying to use logic, and she's like, yeah, you're right, and I go, you can be mad at art. I'm not going to ever, but don't be mad at. This side that we're talking about,
where the lines are blurred is around things, traditional creative professions like graphic design, things like that, where if you start a company now, you can just have AI generate a logo for you and adjust it and do that.
But I mean, what's
Whereas,
the difference between Fiverr? Randy and I have a podcast studio. I spent $70 on Fiverr and had somebody in the Philippines do it.
Yep.
Like, and it was spelled properly. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Where AI, it was like double L or something ridiculous.
Well,
and that's why I got it in all my different formats. I don't know. Like, am I any worse than using Philippines than using someone homegrown? You know what I'm saying?
I don't think it's any worse. I think we're going to suffer from a lack of seasoned depth of experience, and we just talked about this with someone in the lobby. What about entry level folks? I spent my time in the SOC doing repetitive things. If I had the tools I have now, then I would have been able to up level myself faster, but I wouldn't have gotten that seasoned SOC experience that we need.
I was saying the same thing. I was using an abacus in math class, and then they came out the calculator. That's how old I am, Eric. And
last week?
Last week, yeah. Went back when I was young. No, but it's
keep in mind, and to play off what Patrick was saying there, you got these analysts. Their life is 12 to 18 months, and they're done. I mean, can you imagine looking at logs all day?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that you're going to zone out. I mean, what if I could take away the vast majority of that?
But isn't that a rite of passage?
It could be. It
no
could be
different
a
than doing the desk.
great learning experience.
Little
but think
bit
about
of
what you're
hazing.
looking at now. You're actually looking at the relevant logs that you're going to actually go after.
Well, I mean,
you're not looking at the 5,000 things that should have been booted a long time ago.
But every good IT guy has to do password resets.
You got to do your time
for 2 years up or out.
Yep.
The coding, one of the things that I don't mean to bring that up because I know you guys are in the security space, but I'm just curious to get your viewpoint on this.
Sure.
Coding's going away, and I said bullshit, unequivocal, no. And we talked this story just recently that we're taking legacy code and optimizing it in 3 weeks, 200,000 lines into 5,000 lines, optimized for cloud.
KLOX.
Right. We call it accelerated engineering.
Yeah.
But then they're saying coding's going away, and I'm like, no, it's absolutely not. I'm just dying to get your take.
Yeah, I don't
Didn't
think
Zuckerberg say it? Someone like a tech
Google came. I think it was Google that came out and, gosh, what was it? No more junior developers,
Is that what it is?
something along those lines, which is interesting because, all right, no more junior developers, then who becomes a senior developer?
Yeah, how do you get seniors?
everybody's a vice president.
They're gonna
We're in
age.
finance.
They're gonna age out very quickly. So I have some strong opinions about this from a computer science perspective.
Yeah.
Fundamental logic is always going to be needed from a human perspective, right?
Sure.
Someone's going to have to build the things that make the things, right? It's kind of, you talk about automotive, like
Everybody's reused code. Let's be honest. I don't care who you
I mean,
are.
Stack Overflow
Yeah.
was my friend back in the day when I had to actually write code. And are you going to trust? I had this conversation last night with a colleague. Does your CTO trust you to push code directly from your AI generated stuff? Like, are you going to do commits like straight from AI? No, absolutely not. It has to be reviewed. It has to be QA'd, right? And as far as the junior thing is concerned, it's the same thing in the SOC, right? Like, if we don't have entry level jobs, how are the folks going to level up? That's something we need to figure out, right? Is it a co-pilot thing? Is it a shadowing thing until they're ready? No one wants to pay for that because it's like, well, I already paid for AI. Why do I have to have folks shadow?
But you can also have, if you are a junior, you can obviously have some sort of an agent sit and grade their code.
That's where I was going to go.
Yeah.
Like, there's probably a play for speed to efficiency on leveraging AI to train. I mean, I was sitting at Slalom's Idea Days, and we were talking about, it was actually for the help desk, that they would, for the training, you could have a conversation where it sounds like a real person, and at the end of it, it would actually give you a grading on how you were doing.
Yeah.
And it became an opportunity to learn and grow. And actually, I think as we look at some of those tools,
we
and
need
what
that
we
for
could do,
sales folks.
Well, there's a mortgage company in
to
town
AI.
that's your job is to listen and to grade. I'm like, you think about the worst jobs like to listen to like a broker talking to a real estate agent and then critique them after. Oh, there's a long list of stuff I'd rather do.
Yes,
And to be able to grade it,
But yeah, I think
I want to talk about bad salespeople. By the way, that's one of my favorite topics. I want a whole podcast on talking about bad sellers. You just hit a nerve with me, and now I'm going to milk that thing. I want to teach. I want to go to university. I've been begging people, let me teach. I want to blow it all up. I want it removed. I want the profession redefined. I want all of it.
No, people don't listen enough, I think, is the problem with selling. But
green blinking lights, man.
Talk less, listen more is
100%.
my advice.
Fix the problem.
On the entry level stuff, like we have a feature that was just put in, a reviewer feature for each case in case management, right? So you can auto assign the AI analyst to run through the workbook, but then it goes to a human reviewer to see and make sure that it happens. You can also obviously have humans and then a human reviewer, but
it's like treating the AI as the junior.
Exactly. I think
interesting.
I think it's going to work both ways, right?
Yeah.
You can run them through some test scenarios, and then once the AI says this person's good, then they can become that senior threat hunter, incident responder, those types of things.
Because you're never going to let a junior push to prod anyway, so why not have the AI write junior code?
No. I don't know. There might have been an EDR provider that did that. Too soon?
I'm surprised they didn't blame AI for that. That would have been a genius move.
Right.
Like, we had AI push bad code.
We could probably sit here all day and tell stories. Sincerely appreciate y'all's time. P.O. Rob from Torq. Find him online. That's with Torq.
Q.
But yeah, we'll be back.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us.
It's awesome.
Appreciate it.